small town somewhere deep in the forests, there stood an abandoned house, shrouded in mystery and a dark legend. The house was said to be haunted by the spirit of a woman whose soul remained connected to the place after she was buried alive under the foundation. People avoided this place, considering it cursed. But one day, a group of daring teenagers decided to test how scary this legend is. They gathered together and headed towards the house, armed with flashlights and cameras. When they entered the house, the air began to fill with cold, and the atmosphere became more and more ominous. Footsteps on the floor echoed through the empty corridors, and sometimes it seemed as if someone was watching behind you. As they explored this abandoned house, they began to hear whispers calling their name. At first, it seemed like a joke, but then the whispers began to sound louder and more insistent. One of the teenagers decided to leave the group and go to the basement. When his friends heard the cry of horror, they ran towards him and found him in the corner, trembling with horror. He told them that he saw the ghost of a woman floating in the air with a distorted face, and heard her whisper, asking him to help her find peace. They escaped from this house, but neither of them ever forgot the horror they experienced. Although they never returned there, nightmares and memories of what they saw haunted them throughout their lives. In the village of Moonvale, there existed an ancient cemetery shrouded in mystery and dread. The Whispering Graveyard, as it was known, was said to be home to restless spirits and malevolent entities that lurked among the crumbling headstones and twisted trees. Local folklore warned against venturing into the graveyard after dark, for those who did were said to never return. One moonless night, a group of friends dared each other to explore the Whispering Graveyard, drawn by the thrill of the unknown and the promise of an adrenaline-fueled adventure. Among them was Mia, a skeptic who scoffed at the superstitions surrounding the graveyard. As they entered the eerie cemetery, a sense of unease settled over the group, and the air grew thick with a foreboding presence. As they meandered through the maze of tombstones and mausoleums, the friends heard whispers on the wind and felt icy fingers brush against their skin. Mia's bravado wavered as strange shadows danced in the moonlight, their movements unnatural and unsettling. Despite her growing apprehension, she pushed forward, determined to unravel the secrets of the Whispering Graveyard. As the night deepened, the friends found themselves at the heart of the cemetery, where an ancient crypt stood bathed in an ethereal glow. The air grew colder, and a sense of dread washed over them as they realized they were not alone. Whispers filled the air, speaking of forgotten sins and lost souls seeking retribution. In a moment of chilling realization, Mia uncovered a hidden chamber beneath the crypt, its walls adorned with cryptic symbols and faded inscriptions. As she studied the ancient writings, a presence stirred in the shadows, its gaze fixed upon her with a hunger for something beyond the grave. The entity that emerged from the darkness was a specter of pure malice, its form twisted and contorted by centuries of anguish and rage. Mia's friends recoiled in terror as the entity's eyes bore into their souls, a silent scream echoing through the chamber. With a surge of courage born from desperation, Mia confronted the vengeful spirit, her voice trembling but resolute, as she sought to quell its torment and offer solace to the restless soul. In a final act of defiance, she spoke words of empathy and understanding, reaching out across the veil that separated the living from the dead. As the first light of dawn broke over Moonvale, the whisper graveyard stood silent and still, its ancient spirits finally at peace. Mia emerged from the cemetery, her spirit forever changed by the encounter with the vengeful entity. The legend of the whispering graveyard would live on in hushed whispers and cautionary tales, a reminder of the darkness that dwelled in the shadows of Moonvale. And Mia, forever marked by her night of terror and redemption, would carry the memory of the ancient spirits with her as a testament to the power of compassion in the face of supernatural horrors. In a small town deep in the forest lived a family that was always considered mysterious among the locals. They lived in an old abandoned mansion, surrounded by a dark forest, avoiding communication with their neighbors. Many said that they practiced dark magic and that strange noises could be heard from their house at night. One quiet autumn evening, when the moon illuminated the dark branches of the trees, a local boy decided to check whether something strange was really happening in the family's house. Armed with a flashlight, he approached an abandoned mansion. The door was slightly open, and he decided to look inside. Inside, he found a room lit by candles, with books about magic and a black cloak hanging on the wall. In the corner of the room, there was a table on which lay a mysterious book with golden hieroglyphs. The boy approached the book and began to read strange spells, not realizing that he was causing something sinister. Suddenly, there was a rustling sound in the room, and strange shadows began to emerge from the dark corners. He realized that he had awakened something sinister, and with something that it would have been better not to touch. He tried to run out of the house, but the door slammed in his face, trapping him inside with dark forces. The shadows began to approach the boy, and he felt fear cover every cell of him. At that moment, he realized that he was trapped by his own curiosity, and he had to face the consequences of his actions in this abandoned, sinister house. The poor boy was never found again, and his disappearance remained a mystery to everyone who lived in this gloomy town deep in the forest. Some said he became part of the dark forces that awoke that evening, while others simply suggested that he was consumed by the night, leaving only traces of fear and mystery. In a distant small town, there was a house that everyone called the House of the Damned. The legend said that the house was built on the site of an old cemetery where the souls of evil people rested, and its walls were soaked in the blood of innocents. Residents of the town claimed that everyone who dared to go inside did not return. One day, a group of friends passionate about paranormal research decided to check how scary this house was. They gathered there on Halloween night, when the forces of evil were said to be especially active. After entering the house, they felt impenetrable darkness and coldness penetrating through their bones. The steps sounded muffled, as if someone was watching them from the shadows. Soon, strange things began to happen. The doors closed by themselves. Footsteps were heard on the second floor, although no one went up there. They decided to conduct a spiritual summoning session, hoping to contact the spirits present. But instead of answers, they heard only whispers, full of threats and ominous predictions. Suddenly, the lights went out, and an atmosphere of fear and hopelessness hung in the room. When they finally decided to get out of the house, they found that the door was locked and the windows were covered with bars. They wandered through dark corridors, trying to find a way out, but every new turn led them to a dead end. At some point, one of the friends disappeared without a trace. The others realized that they would have to fight not only fear, but also something much more sinister than they had imagined. Only at dawn they managed to get out of the house, but none of them ever forgot the terrible events of that night. Many consider this story to be simply a myth, but some argue that the house of the